AI to Go podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the AI to Go podcast. My name is Johannes and we help you turn AI pilots into clear business outcomes. Today's guest is Rujuta Singh, the founder and CEO of Solve Together, which is a global AI transformation and innovation studio. Really excited about the chat. Welcome, Rujuta.
Hi, Johannes. Thank you.
I'm really excited about all the transformation advice that you collected over the past decades. We'll get into that and we will have some fun with a nice little role play. I will act as a CEO today and we will have a chat. So I'm really excited for that. You started your career as a programmer who believed anything could be solved with logic and the right algorithm. Was there any specific moment that you realized that this wasn't true or this is only half of the truth? And how did it change the trajectory of your career?
I think I probably have realized it pretty much all the time. I just was in denial. Like I didn't want to face the complexity and the storm that is people and people problems. So I took comfort in, that's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to get into, and kept on trying to keep myself to algorithms and logical things and logical processes and systems. The point came when I realized that actually no matter how perfectly logical the systems and processes might be, if I don't solve the people piece, nothing works. So if I'm really genuinely I'm a problem solver, which is what I am. I think most of us kind of are. So I do genuinely care about solving the problem. So the question I had to ask myself is that if I really do care about solving the problem, then I need to figure out this piece of puzzle, because otherwise I'm not solving the problem. So yeah.
You went on what you call a global treasure hunt, trying out a few different things in order to figure out why teams fail, teams and organizations. What was the most surprising thing that you learned on that journey?
I don't think it was surprising. I think the pattern kept on repeating. Like I found so much evidence when you start looking for it. So first thing I realized that most people like me at that time think that this is happening just with them, that this is happening with their team, their company. This is a politics issue that only happens in their company. And what I realized and what I was so surprised about, and every time when I talk about this, people are surprised about this as well, is that this happens in every company. And that is like a penny drop for a lot of people. Like it's not this company's problem. This is not this team's problem. This is not a boss problem. This is essentially a group dynamics problem. And we haven't really figured out how to collaborate real time with a group of people. We are good at one-on-one conversations, but we are not really good at when we have to get multiple people together in a room, how to actually get them to solve problems together in a way that we are truly harnessing their intelligence. So most of the time, what ends up happening is 20% of the people are talking 80% of the time. So if you think about it organizationally, if you're hiring 1,000 people and paying for them, you're only using 20% of that capacity and wasting 80% of it. And that happens meeting after meeting after meeting.
It's a smart way of looking at it. And I also think that it's kind of a relief. So it's not only us, our team, our company, like it's a human species problem, right?
Yes.
But how do you fix that, right?
Yes.
Now you built your methodology on psychology and neuroscience, specifically how the brain processes change and collaboration. For us non-scientists, what are the brain hacks that change a team's behavior?
I am not a scientist. I'm telling you, I'm also a non-scientist, but I'm very interested in collaboration because I think at the root of every complex problem, whether it's nuclear attacks, whether it's UN, politics, terrorism, AI, is the fact that we can't together and collaborate and solve something together. I mean, whether it's big or small. At the root of everything is this. So you asked me about by the way, the things that I use are not developed by me. I'm just reusing what so many people have done so much work, so much research on, and developed all these methodologies and scientific experiments and all of that. I'm just using them. I'm just applying them. I'm the applicator of all these things. There are a lot of different pieces that are in play when people are trying to work together. Imagine you have 4 or 5 people in the room. Generally, sometimes, a lot of times, it's 10 people. Whether it's remote or it's in person, it doesn't matter. But every one of them has, first of all, different way of learning, how people learn. Some people are very visual, some people are very auditory. So it's easier. People have different ways of processing information. You also have these personality quizzes, which means they have different inclinations in terms of what kind of person they are. You have their cultural upbringing, and that matters massively. For example, in Asian cultures, you're not supposed to ask questions. In Western culture, if you're not asking questions, then it's a problem. You don't understand anything. Even simplest things like that are a big problem when you don't understand people's, where they come from. People have different energy sources. So some are extrovert, some are introvert. And this is not so much as just being social. It's really extroverts get their energy from people, whereas introverts deplete their energy when they are with people. So it does affect in the way people interact with each other. When we talk about family systems, what is happening, how they have been brought up specifically, even if they might be in a different culture, and also what's happening with them right now, their current scenario, we have no idea what is going on. So all of those things are playing up. All we see is somebody saying one sentence to us. But all of that is playing in the background. And that's why we struggle to understand each other, to sort of truly communicate with each other. There are other things such as groupthink is a kind of a well-known term. If most people are saying something, you tend to think that that's the right thing. You have the boss think, I guess, where if the boss is in the room, then if the boss is saying something, then you probably want to nod, to that or not appear So all of those other things are then layering on top as well. So there are a lot of issues in the current way we have. The only collaboration method we really know is meetings. That's the only way we know how. You get people together in a room, you put them together and you say, go figure. That's the only way we know.
I love how you paint that picture. Yeah? It gets very clear how complex things are. You call it in the background, right? It's on the interpersonal level, right? It's not like what you say, but
yes,
how you say it, to whom you say it, etc. So it's all the meta level that we tend to neglect or tend to avoid that is really driving a lot of those decisions and outcomes. I saw that you gave a talk called The Neuroscience of Meetings. I love that one. That was really cool. Where you argue most meetings work against how brains actually function. What are we all doing wrong, and what are those brain-friendly meetings look like?
One very simple example, and when I do these sessions, we can't do this right now live, but one of the things that we have is that in our working memory, and we've tested this out. I do this in big rooms, and I show people lots of different words, and like a word, Wordle thingy. And I ask them to take it away and tell me how much they remember. And most people will average between 5 to 9 words at a time. And it's a number that has been scientifically proven multiple times. So a working memory can hold on an average 7 words. What does that mean in the meeting scenario? So you have 4 people in the room. You've gone twice. Everybody has spoken. You've forgotten what the first person said because your working memory cannot hold that kind of information. So what is happening in a meeting that while we are trying to focus on what just the person said before, we are also trying to remember what the first person said. And second, there's a massive cognitive overload. On top of that, somebody is trying to say, oh, but we have to cover this agenda. We need to do this. Like, this is why we are here. On top of that, then you're actually saying, oh, but what is the actual solution? You need, like, there is so much going on that we cognitively are not capable of doing this. Like, the way the meetings are structured do not work the way our brains function for that reason.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. You have a fascinating Substack that is called Field Notes on Humans by AI.
Yes.
That's super. It's so funny. It's fiction from an AI's perspective watching humans.
Yes.
Why did you create it? How has writing from an AI's point of view taught you about our fears? Why is a feature, why is fear a feature, not a bug?
I mean, that's one angle of looking at fear. It is definitely a feature because we cultivated it for survival. It's a survival mechanism for us. So it's a design feature. It's not a bug. The problem is that it becomes a bug when we are not living in a forest or a jungle, being hunted by wild animals constantly, because we are not anymore. We live in a very different society now. So what is happening is all our survival mechanisms are getting triggered when they shouldn't get triggered. And that's where it's a feature, but it's just not relevant in the context we live in today. So that's the bit. But to answer your previous question, it's just fascinated by how much people cared about how AI is not human, which is true, and how we are so superior to, as human beings. Like, we have this species syndrome, obviously, like we are the best and we are the superior thing. And, and I was like, but AI must be somewhere, if it's somewhere, which it is, and looking at all of us and thinking, who are these people and how strange they are and why are they doing what they're doing? It just doesn't make any sense. So that was quite interesting. And then once you start looking from that lens, you realize how much paradox we have in our lives as human beings.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I can only recommend to read it. It's really funny
Thank you.
and very.
I'm glad that you found it enjoyable.
You are also working on reality TV for transformation programs. Can you give us a sense, like, what is it that you're working on there and what are the most funniest or the highlights so far?
I mean, the concept of transformation reality TV was whenever I went to conferences and discussions and panels, people obviously want to share their success stories. Everybody talks about what happened and how they were able to achieve whatever they were able to achieve. And knowing transformation for so many years, I knew that is not how it is, right? So the reality of transformation is that everything fails all the time, every single day. So, but nobody's talking about it. And one of the things that I really started doing with Solve Together is the idea of failure. And it's something that I think I have seen, especially in fast tech companies, being more adopted as an idea. The concept of fail fast. Silicon Valley, tech pros, they get this thing about, fail fast. But when it comes to anywhere in the business side, in enterprise or even mid-size or small businesses, any leadership, we treat failures as like, oh my God, I failed. The whole piece is about how do I show that I have not failed? And we spend so much energy in that, in protecting ourselves from failure. And at the same time, the failure itself is the biggest learning mechanism for us. So that's another paradox, right? And I started getting really interested in paradoxes, as you can see. So what I really wanted to do is, in a business context, create somehow a safe space to share failures more and share them more openly so that people get inspired that, okay, even if these big senior people are talking about this is how they failed, this is what went wrong, then hopefully we get permission to fail as well. So I wanted to create that sort of space for talking about failures. That's how the concept started. And again, failures and mistakes are slightly different, I guess. Mistake is like has a negative connotation. Failure also does. But essentially, everyone that I talked to in this reality TV over and over confirmed the same kind of idea that I had. They failed and failed and failed and failed several times before they understood or learned this tiny little bit of wisdom. And that is how the process looks like. So, in fact, I would even push the boat and say, we need companies and leaders thinking about how do we actually do this as a organizational framework? How do we celebrate failures as an organization, as a practice? Not just once upon a time, but we, for example, create forums, which is about celebrating failures, or who failed the quickest, or how many times did I fail in last week, or something like that. We need to think about this as an organizational practice, both at the leadership and the team.
Absolutely. It's the honest way of looking at things. I really love that concept to just openly share what works and what doesn't, right? It's usually probably also power law distribution of what works and what doesn't, I would assume. And that also inspired the role play idea that we had. So instead of us walking through some questions, theoretically, we want to make this a bit more tangible. So I will switch roles for a little bit. I'm going to stop being a podcast host for a few minutes and become a CEO. Let's call me Alex. I run a financial services company with about 8,000 people. And I'm sitting across from you, Rujuta, because my board just told me that AI needs to be our number one priority for 2026. We've already spent £4 million on AI initiatives, and I honestly can't tell you what we've gotten from it. So please help me. I'm going to throw my real problems at you, and I'm looking for your advice.
Sure, Alex.
Thanks for taking a moment to help me out. I want to paint a little bit of a picture here about my honest situation. We've already run 6 different AI pilots over the past 18 months. Now my CTO says they are all promising, they just need further analysis. My CFO says she can't find the value in any of them. My board saw the PwC study that claimed that 56% of CEOs report zero revenue gains from AI. And now they're asking me why we're any different. I feel like I'm spending real money on science projects. Where am I going all wrong?
I think my first question, if I was to come, Alex, to understand what's happening in your company, is asking you, what is it that you want to achieve as a CEO, as a business? That's always the first question. What are your goals? Where do you want to be in 12 months' time, in 2 years' time? And the second very important question I would ask, whether it's AI or not AI, is where is it hurting you the most right now in your business? What is the area that's really keeping you, awake in the night? Is it your recruitment? Is it the fact that you can't really figure out your finances, in the sense financial numbers don't tally? Is it your delivery quality? All of these could be true, but which one is the most impactful?
I think the key or most pressure that we have is on the bottom line these days, right? So how do we manage our costs? And if I gave you the permission to be ruthless, what are the questions that you would ask to decide which pilots out of the 6 I should kill, which I should scale, and which should never have been started in the first place?
I don't know what process you applied to decide which pilots you should create in the first place. So I am coming at it retrospectively and asking you, I'm showing you the path of deciding how do you funnel this, right? So the first question is, where do you want to go in 12 months, 2 years? So let's say you tell me, I want to be able to, you said your profit margins are lower right now, your costs are higher. So let's say you say, in 2 years' time, I want my costs to be halved. Fine. So let's look at that. Where are your costs much higher right now than you expect? Okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe your sales costs are very high, like we talked about. Okay, So let's zoom into that. Now, let's park that for a second. And now I'm going to ask you the pilots that you ran or created, 6 pilots. Where are they? What are they doing? Have any idea? Like, are they all in sales? Are they spread out? I don't know. And my point is, like, this is the process you need to apply in your head to say, okay, out of these 6 pilots, which of these are in sales or sales cost optimization? That's the one that you want to look at first.
They are all scattered across the company. It started as a bottom-up experiment, and now it's pretty much across the whole board. So you're saying essentially I should focus on the ones driving the outcome. Now, my CFO pulled me aside last week and said, Alex, I can fund innovation or I can fund AI, but I can't do both. We need to see returns by Q3. And she wants hard numbers, as you can imagine. But my AI team keeps telling me the returns are compounding and I need to be more patient. You know, I hate being patient as a CEO and we don't have time reporting quarterly numbers. Now, my question is like, who's right and how do I get them in the same room without a bloodbath?
I think the CFO is right. That's my smartest, shortest answer. CFO is always right. The numbers are always right. I don't believe in innovation for the sake of innovation. Innovation without outcome is just waste of time and money. That doesn't mean that every experiment you do is going to give you the outcome. That's not what I'm saying. But the whole mindset of innovation is that you're trying to push the boat, go beyond what is possible otherwise in your day-to-day routine. That's the innovation. But it's not outcome-less and it's not unstructured. What I do at Solve Together for that reason is we apply a structured framework to experimentation and innovation. So everything is always geared towards, this is the goal we're trying to achieve. So every time you're running your iteration, you're saying, like you said, Paulo, right? Principle in that as well. So we can't, in innovation, the hard thing to do is commit to a timeline, but that doesn't mean you don't have outcomes. You can clearly see we've ran 10 experiments because we wanted to achieve this one goal specifically. And out of those 10 experiments, 8 have failed and 2 have been successful. And they have been successful in achieving that goal up to, let's say, 90%. So, but it has taken us 10 experiments to do that. Now, it is possible using structured frameworks that you can also understand what is your, we call it hypothesis. You define what your hypothesis is. And it all is about that. So if you pick the most important piece, the risk that is the biggest risk for you. So if you don't prove that, nothing else matters. That's where you need to start. And if you start in that, it's all about prioritization. If you start there, innovation is not headless chickens running experiments all the time. It is about really very clearly defining and refining your goals constantly at every iteration.
So I should talk to my CFO and we should build hypotheses. Is that what you're saying?
You definitely should build hypotheses or at least review the experiments that you have run already and how they were run. What was the hypothesis that they were trying to prove? And what happened? I mean, at the moment, we just have very surface level information. So when we say we can either do AI or either do innovation, I don't understand that because both of them for me are one and the same thing. AI is not separate from business. AI is not separate from innovation. It is, you have to integrate AI in your business strategy. So AI strategy or innovation strategy generally is looked at, it's a separate thing from your business. It should be part of your business strategy. Because if you have to constantly anchor it in your business objectives, is this thing taking me closer to my business goals or away from my business goals? That's your anchor. That's your compass the whole time. As a leader, as a CEO, the thing that you can help the most here is give people that anchor. If you are very clear about your goals in a very specific manner, not, oh, we want to be profitable. That's very vague. What exactly are we looking to achieve? The clearer you are, the more guidance you can give to your people in which direction they need to.
Yeah. I will have a follow-up with my CEO right after this meeting. The other thing that I'm looking into is the AI talent side. So my head of HR says a decent AI lead costs at least $300K. minimum, and we'll lose them to a tech company anyways within 18 months. Meanwhile, I've got 8,000 employees, and most of them think AI is either ChatGPT or the Terminator. There's no real middle ground. I can't afford to hire my AI dream team and upskill my existing workforce. So what would be your advice? What should I actually do?
That's a very, very interesting problem. I do think that, again, I don't have a full understanding of why you're hiring the AI lead for, like, what are they supposed to do? The way I think about business strategy is every hire needs to earn their own salary.
Mhm.
So it's all outcome based. And again, that goes back to our previous point is what are the goals? What are the objectives? What is AI? If you're bringing him in and saying, you need to figure out how to save 5K or $1 million costs per year after all the AI implementation costs have taken out, year on year, I want you to save $1 million, then he justifies his existence, right? So it's about what are you hiring the AI lead for? Also, again, it depends on, I know you're a big company. And I know you need someone to figure this out for you. So it's easier to hire somebody who knows this thing. But maybe think about people who have been, maybe think about consulting, but maybe more smaller consulting firms who would be way cheaper and very much outcome based for you as well. Because if they don't deliver the outcome, they don't get paid, which is a very B2B relationship rather than hiring. And then once you settled in what you need to have, what you are you implementing through that process, then you can understand clearly what that role definition for an AI lead might look like.
Hmm. Yeah. So I want my skills in-house, right? So my question is, if I can't hire my AI lead because the business case is not positive, how do I upskill my existing 8,000 people?
So those two things are very different. You hiring your AI lead is not going to upskill your 8,000 people. Completely two different pieces of, equation. I think people don't realize that there is an individual productivity aspect with AI, and then there is the organization transformation aspect with AI. And those two are two different things. So what I mean by individual productivity is people who are going day to day, going about their job. You and I, we are checking our emails, going on our meetings, preparing some reports, creating some spreadsheets. How do I do that faster with AI? That's individual productivity. Organizational transformation is at an organizational level, what are my issues? And hence, how can I use AI to resolve them quickly? Whether we talked about cost optimization, we talked about increasing sales, we talked about, maybe running 10 extra campaigns every year in half the cost, let's say, So those are your organizational transformation pieces where you have to look holistically across the organization. And those are completely two different things. When you're thinking about upskilling your people, I think one of the main reason people who understand and or people who love learning, they will learn. They are inclined to learn. You need to remove the obstacles in their way that are stopping them from learning.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to create the environment where they can learn themselves, because the self-initiated learning is the best learning of all. And with AI, it's so easy. ChatGPT had 1 million users in 5 days. The last company which achieved that kind of speed was Netflix, and it took Netflix 2.5 years to do the same. ChatGPT was 5 days. So, it's when things work for people, they use them. You don't have to train them to use it. People will go and use them. When they see the person sitting next door doing the same thing in 5 minutes that they spent 5 days on, they are definitely going to go and learn that. The point is creating the environment. So maybe ask the question, what is stopping them from not learning? Do they have capacity? Do they get even 2 hours in a week to learn something new at all? What is the general sense in the air, the vibe? Are their managers telling them no AI? Don't use AI? do we have any, people do spend, companies mostly invest in like having AI courses, but just having, a passive where I'm watching some screens, using that kind of training to learn AI is not going to work. One of the best ways you could do that is make it into like a gaming environment, give people goals, game plan, and say, okay, this department, we are going to do this with AI today. This, make it into a hackathon, a company-wide hackathon. Get people to learn. And maybe one of the ways that leaders can do this really well is role models. Share with them what you learned. Share with them openly that you are using AI so that it takes away the fear from people, if that's what you want to do. Whatever you are doing, be 100% sure that everyone in your company is watching you and they're copying you. So if you are hesitant, not really sure about AI, then that's what you will see in your company as well.
So I should more openly talk about me using ChatGPT on a day-to-day basis for
If you
meeting.
are using ChatGPT, and if you're not using ChatGPT, I'll ask you the same question. What is stopping you from using it? And a lot of times when I'm talking to senior execs and board members, I genuinely feel that there is a sense of that they feel really out of depth. And I don't blame them because it's this kind of time we never had before. The information is changing so that what was true 2 months ago or a month ago is not true today. And it's very hard to cope with that situation. So you don't even know whom to trust because it's changing so fast. Everybody is kind of right. And how to deal with that while running a company as a CEO. So most senior execs I meet find it very, very hard to keep up and they feel very out of depth, which is why I started running these strategic AI sessions for CEOs and for board members so that they have an anchoring framework, which is not a technical AI trading, but understanding what AI capabilities are and how to apply them in a business context. So if you use something like that, which takes your strength as a CEO, which is business and strategy, and using that to understand AI, then that would make much more sense for you rather than people talking, other things like OpenClaw and run this agent and whatever. It needs to be in your context.
That makes a lot of sense. You brought up a very interesting point, and that is trust. I'll tell you something that I haven't told my board. I think my middle managers are quietly killing our AI initiatives. Not openly, nobody's saying I refuse, but the pilots, they just stall. Timelines slip, data never arrives, requirements keep changing, the whole playbook. I read that 1 in 3 employees admit to sabotaging AI rollouts. I think my numbers are higher. What do you do with people who smile at the AI town hall and then get back to blocking it?
I'll tell you what I do. And I don't think this is new to AI, this particular situation. In my transformation career, every new system, every new technology went through this. This change is hard. It's hard for me, it's hard for you, it's hard for everyone. So anything that comes along and, anything or anyone who says, oh, we are going to change everything about how you do things and what you do, it's not going to work. People think it works. People think pressure and force and pushing people towards their agenda works. And it does work in short term, but it doesn't work in long term. If you really want people to change their behavior and adapt, the change needs to come from them. You need to reverse the direction of change. What I mean by that is, so this is why I started running these collaboration initiatives. The framework of AI Accelerator Lab is about how do we get the teams to come up with AI concepts themselves that is going to change their life. So it's not me who is telling them, you should do this. This is the use case, we should run it. It's them, they're telling you, this is what we want. And when it comes from them, when it originates from them, when they are creating it, then they are championing it. They are excited by it. So it is more about, there are a number of things that happen in a session, these sessions that I run. One is we create space to voice their concerns very openly, but anonymously as well. So all the sessions that I run, most of the things that we do are anonymous. They are not meeting structure. They are very different kind of structure. What that means is that people can see, first of all, that everybody else is feeling the same way, but they are also feeling safe to share those concerns. And the best thing you can do is actually let them, sometimes you don't even have to resolve them. Just the act of them able to share those concerns is sometimes enough. Because a lot of times we don't even that doesn't happen. I'm very sincere in saying that, because like I said, I'm a problem solver. Every time somebody gives me a concern or a fear, I want to solve it. And what I realize that is sometimes it's enough just for people to let it, articulate or express. You don't have to solve it. That step itself solves it. So that's number one, is creating that space. Second is helping them tell each other and you what are their problems, and harnessing their business knowledge, because they know more than anybody else about what is going to make their life easier. Nobody has to tell them that. So getting them in a collaborative way to tell you or tell anybody or tell each other what is going to make their lives easier. And then introducing them to, okay, this is what AI can do in this space. Showing them some inspirations, and then getting them to pick how they want to do this. Because every problem can be solved by 100 different ways. And this is where the misalignment and political stuff happen, because everybody wants to solve the thing. But what happens is we get too attached to our solution. So my idea is the best idea, and then I'm just going to go with that. What we want is a collective consensus, which is the tricky thing to achieve. What I mean by that is it's not one person's idea. Collectively, we all came together and we actually agreed that this is the way to go forward, in a way that we are not going to leave the room and say, no, I didn't agree to that, which is what happens most of the time. So it is about the collective consensus. And if we can get people to do that, then they can see the changes coming from them.
We really need to change that in the company. One other thing for my people business is we have a all hands meeting next Tuesday, 8,000 people on a video call. They've all seen the headlines about AI replacing jobs.
Right.
They know I just came back from Davos talking about AI transformation. I need to say something about our AI strategy that's honest, but doesn't turn my workforce into, as you put it, a bundle of existential dread. What do I actually say? What do I tell them?
I'm asking you your honest opinion. What is it? What is in your head, honestly? What is it that you want? I don't know the answer to that. Like, honesty is that. It's honesty.
Well, one of the goals is to save some costs, right? So we won't be able to keep everyone. I'm not the one who wants to cut the workforce in half. I don't think that's right for the overall success of the business, but we definitely need to let people go. How do I communicate that in a way that does not let people go wild?
I would just interject on that, because I think when anybody says that we have to let people go to save costs, I don't think that's an AI issue. I think that's a business issue. So that's irrespective of AI piece. The AI piece comes in where you're saying, okay, how do I use AI to then do what all these people that I'm letting go do? And in order for you to do that, as you and I both know, you will need to either hire people or get consultants or create new roles. Maybe not as many as you had let go, but there will be a good number of things that you need to think about, such as how am I going to maintain these systems? We need people who understand what AI is doing. You might need to, typically an AI sort of low-level AI mature organization would spend maybe 5-10% on IT. An AI first organization will spend around 30 to 50% on IT. So what is happening is your workforce is moving towards, they have different skills, they have different roles. So it won't be 8,000 to 4,000, right? But it will be, the shape is different as well. So that's something that I would suggest that if you don't know yet what that looks like, maybe the first step is to figure that out.
Mhm.
Like I said, figure out what your AI integrated business strategy is going to be, what your business is going to look like in 2 years' time,
Mhm.
what you want it to look like. And that will give you clarity. And then that will hopefully help you in giving out that message. I would say at this point, just saying that we are reviewing, how we do business, because if you want to survive as a business, you need to think about doing things differently because customer expectations are changing. Everything is changing. So we need to bring ourselves in the new age, and we are reviewing that, and that should be enough. We you could also say something like, we are very open for people to give us ideas, of encourage involvement, encourage contribution, and encourage people to feel that we are all in the same boat.
That's going to be a difficult balance to strike, I think. Another one that I have is our data situation. So my chief data officer just presented a 14-month data governance roadmap. 14 months before we can responsibly feed our data into AI systems. My competitors aren't waiting 14 months. Like, we have digital native competitors across the UK in fintech. But my CDO says if we rush it, we'll end up like that IBM Watson disaster that happened, garbage in, garbage out, and a very expensive embarrassment. Part of me thinks he's right. The other part thinks he's using data quality as an excuse not to move. How do I tell the difference here?
I agree with you or your instincts that this doesn't sound right. Like, it doesn't sound right to me. I think that people often confuse doing things right means doing things slow, or there is this sense that if you're doing something quickly or rapidly, that it inadvertently means that you're rushing things and you've not thought through things. And in my role as in Salt Together, I have seen things differently. I have seen that you can achieve speed and momentum while having governance and regulations and quality and all of those things built in and embedded. I think the reason we are slow is because we have to work together with other humans, not because of tech. Generally, the delays are through because we don't know how to figure out this data quality problem together. If each individual pieces, I know of solutions, people, partners that I have worked with who can, for example, work in data quality, using AI, work in, all those problems can be solved much more quickly. Like 14 months is definitely not a timeline that I will sign up to in today's age.
Got it. Here's another part that nobody wants to honestly talk about. Half of our critical systems are 15 or even 20 years old. Our core platform processes about 2 billion in transactions monthly, and it just works. My CTO says we need to modernize before we can do real AI, whatever that means. That's a 2-year, 30 million program just to get to the starting line. Meanwhile, I talked about my digital native competitors. They are deploying AI in days or weeks. Are we just too old as a company to win at this?
I mean, interestingly, I have been working with a company who specializes in looking at legacy systems using AI. So we are talking about using AI as an architectural augmentation. So we can use AI to analyze code, analyze systems, analyze functionality, and tell us how we can improve it, how we should structure it, and then use AI agents to do the coding for that as well and do the decomposition. So all those things are possible today. Like, literally, if this is the problem you want to solve, let's do that. Forget about your 6 AI pilots. That's the one that you should probably think about.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I would love to see that company. Another one, so I'm watching competitors move faster. They release their AI features and they shout about it in the market, right? You've seen the Klarna CEO with some big announcements over the past couple of years. On the other, my legal, my risk teams, my compliance teams, they always hit the brakes on almost everything because of regulation and brand risk. How do you help me as a CEO find the right speed setting? I want to be fast enough, not to fall behind, but I don't want to be reckless.
I would be very honest with you, Alex. The problem I see in most enterprise companies is that the current the people don't have the current knowledge and skill set about what's happening, what's actually happening. And I see that in any big company, not just enterprise companies, but even consultancies themselves, like bigger consultancies have the same problem. So when we talk about risk and compliance, yes, we want that expertise that they have in terms of what are the risks, how do we deal with compliance? But there are so many new ways of dealing with those things with AI, but also embedded AI governance at every level. So when we do AI Accelerator Lab, the idea is always embedding all of that at the design stage. We don't wait until build or after build when something goes wrong, then you bring the compliance. We used to talk about secure by design or security by design. We now talk about ethical by design, responsible by design, fund or governance by design. So it's all embedded as part of the design process itself, which is why we can be very confident that what we are trying to do, not confident in the way, we also have validation mechanism that whatever we've designed actually work. So that's how but that doesn't mean that it has to take years. It could still be done in months.
So thank you so much for the honest conversation. If I brought you into my company tomorrow with a mandate from the board, what would be the actual sequence of moves you'd make in the first 90 days to break this loop that we're in right now?
I think first thing is I would like to have you and your leadership team in the room to, decide where do you want to go, what you want to solve first.
We can do that tomorrow.
Yeah. Then the second step is once we figure out what is the area we want to focus on, we then stand up a cross-functional squad that focuses on that area where we have the right people. So not just IT, but everyone who is involved in the periphery. And we decide what is the outcome we want to achieve at the end. We decide the hypothesis and we run them through the structural framework of AI Accelerator Lab, where they figure out the solution concepts that they want to try. We prototype, we validate, we either go ahead or we break. So we run this framework it's a 1 week iteration, sometimes 2 weeks.
That's quick.
Yeah. So within a month, maybe 6 weeks, you will know very clearly where this is going to go, at least for the first one. And once you're happy how that has gone in, we repeat the process. We take another area that you want to focus on. We do the same thing. We repeat. And that way you could have 3, 4, 5, 6 of these labs running. When I say labs, I do say experimentation, but that doesn't, again, to your point previously, means that they are headless chicken running, innovation without any outcome in sight. That's not how it works, and that's not how it should work. So that's what we would do. That's how it would look like. It does mean thinking differently and doing things differently that you're not used to.
Now, if we work together and I see you again in 12 months, what are the 3 concrete signals that you'd point to and say, we are not longer stuck in the anxiety loop. We are actually becoming an AI-enabled company?
I don't think I have to point out. I think you will be pointing it out. You will be saying, Rujuta, actually, these 3 things that we did with AI are saving us. You would say that to me within 3 months that are saving us this much. I feel sometimes that, am I exaggerating? But I'm not exaggerating. The numbers are unreal. yes, you do have to make sure that you have the whole governance thing sorted out. It's secure and, in all of those. And even if you add that on top, within 3 to 4 months, you should be able to see massive ROI.
Okay, I'm taking my CEO Alex head off. That was fun. What did you notice about how I was framing my problems, and what are the patterns that you see typically when you talk to real CEOs?
This, you can't generalize this, but my main pattern that I see is that they are absolutely, obviously trusting people that they have hired. But because things are changing so fast, the organizations themselves don't have the capability. Those people don't have the capability because they don't have time to learn. The time to learn is the biggest issue. Learning agility is the biggest issue right now. That how fast can you learn? And do you have space, and do you give your people space to learn? I feel very blessed about this because I feel like working the way I do as a business owner and a consultant, I am able to flex my schedule because I don't think I would be saying what I'm saying to you today if I hadn't spent hours and hours and hours learning. It's not about what I know or what I have known for all these years. In fact, I had to pretty much throw away everything I knew for 20 years when I started going through this whole thing. And that's the key bit, that even as a CEO, as an exec, and people are open. It's not that they're not open. In fact, the senior people, the more successful they are, they know they need to be adaptable. They are adaptable. They are open-minded. But do we actually have space in capacity to
Right.
do that? That's the key issue.
That's true. And how do you enable that across
Enable that.
the organization?
Yeah. I think you have to really make it into a practice, like really dedicate time as yourself individually to devote to learning. And same with your company, in your organization.
Even in my role, right? So I'm essentially paid to do that. And
Yeah.
I find it challenging to find the
True.
time in the
To
evening, on the weekends, to do that, right? So it's really a challenge for everyone.
Yeah. And imagine where people are not paid to do that. And not just that, then they don't even have a minute to look up and breathe. There's no point in us blaming and saying you haven't learned AI or whatever. Who has the time?
No, exactly. I try to be empathetic, like try not to push too hard on certain things, right? Keep the cadence high and the communication flowing, but not to push people to do things if this isn't the right time or this isn't the right opportunity or use case whatsoever, right? So striking that balance between understanding when you actually have a solution for a relevant problem and then push really for it and go all in versus when is not the right time to do that. That's kind of the particular challenge that I noticed. It's a lot about timing.
Yes. Yes. And like we were talking about before, if it comes from them, it's so much more impactful. But that's the hardest bit. Like, how long will you wait for them to come with that thing? And you're right. I mean, sometimes it is something that I have to be very conscious of because I am an experienced transformation person. So when I'm in the room, I know almost that, what they need, but I'm really stopping myself and not, giving that to them instantly as if it's coming from me, because it needs to come from them. It should come from them, or at least we need to create an environment that it comes from. And it doesn't have to be it. It doesn't have to be the solution that I think it is.
How do you strike a balance between executing frameworks and really listening to the individual problems of the people in the room?
I don't think I'm doing those two things at the same time as such. I think those are two different places. So when I'm outside of the session, I'm thinking about framework, I'm thinking about structure. When I'm inside of the session, it's all go with the flow. I have to be extremely open-minded that this could go any way. And that as a facilitator, that's what now I call myself. I'm essentially a facilitator. That I can plan every 5 minutes of the session and trains wouldn't be working and I wouldn't reach on time, or 5 people out of 10 haven't arrived. All the agenda goes like, you have to be prepared that anything would happen or could happen in the room, and to take the session where it needs to go and deciding that. So I'm extremely planned and prepared because I do have every 5 minutes planned of the session, but I have to be very open as well in terms of what is and present of what is actually happening in the session. And that's the hardest thing to achieve.
You wrote about adaptability being one of the key skills in the AI age, right? And it's
100%.
really the reminder that everybody needs to practice adaptability, also the facilitators and the consultants.
100%. I mean, change is the most hardest thing for every single one. Even the tiny kid, like a year-old, change is hard for them. They've just been in life for 1 year and still.
Do you also feel that the pace of change has accelerated in the recent
100%.
weeks and months? Like,
100%.
how do you keep up with everything that's happening?
Yeah, you don't try to keep up. I think that's the solution. I don't think if you're chasing it, that it's going to help you. It is 100% increased. I don't know whether you saw, I did this whole series on why 2025 specifically felt so different, because I believe that it's an inflection point. It was an inflection point. The Ray Kurzweil, he basically gave out the singularity, came up with the singularity piece and exponentiality piece 20 years back, and he predicted what was going to happen, right? And I believe that we are in that curve, just getting that curve bit now, and things are going to get faster, I think, which is why always trying to think about what tools are on the market, what is new happening. It's good to keep yourself up to date, but you have to be grounded and anchored in what is it that you want to achieve. That's the only way you can make sense of this.
So you're saying not trying to keep up, trying to adapt to the pace of change, but really focus. It's like a stoicism recommendation, right? Focus on your goals and your purpose and use that as a steering tool throughout the accelerating change.
And that's true as an individual, and that's true as a company as well.
Yeah. So the clearer you have your inner compass or the company's compass, right? Ultimately, it's like strategic clarity
Absolutely.
and execution clarity.
Absolutely.
That is super critical in this insane time of change. I really felt it when I came back from my Christmas vacation. I really felt it. Something has accelerated beyond what I can grasp. And that's scary. It's exciting. I'm also trying to identify what are my key priorities and having clarity as to what are the topics that I want to spend my time on versus what is all the noise and all the stuff happening that I just need to avoid looking into, right?
So they say the top skill of a leader, the top skill of a leader, which I haven't mastered very well, I must admit, is deciding what to say no to. That's it. If you figured that out, you're good. And the more successful you get, the more brutal you get. So Naval Ravikant says, like, he is the top guy on this. Every time I've heard him talk, he talks about how he protects and guards every moment of his life. And that doesn't mean that he's working all the time, but he's really intentional about every moment.
That's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Rujuta. This was amazing. I learned so much. I hope you enjoyed the role play. I know that we didn't get into all the details and information that would be required, but I hope you still found it interesting to do as an experiment.
I loved it. I think this was very, very interesting. I definitely got into the role play, as you can see. And I hope that you and your viewers find it useful. That's the main reason why we are doing this, right? We really want to give people the sense of agency in this world right now, that they feel that they can control things. I think that there is a way forward. And yeah, I am an eternal optimist, and if you see me outside of my professional skin, I am like a kid in a toy shop right now. I'm buzzing with excitement for what is to come. I'm so excited for the future of what is possible today that was never possible before. Like, I feel like I'm literally in Hamleys or something, and I'm like, what do I buy? Or a chocolate shop. But that's how I feel. It's an incredible time. And
It's a candy
generationally,
store with infinite inventory, I would say.
yeah. And also generationally, I feel I'm so blessed because I grew up in a time when the kids still played on the street with each other safely, and nobody bothered about asking or worrying about them. And no video games and no phones. And then I'm getting to see this, being alive and excited in this time as well. Like generationally as well, I feel we are blessed in that way.
Absolutely. If people found your advice useful, how can our viewers and listeners learn more about you and your company?
I'm on LinkedIn, so Rujuta Singh on LinkedIn, and solvetogether.co.uk is my website. We can add all of that in the podcast details. So that
We'll make sure to do that. Thank you so much. This was incredible. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Johannes. Me too. Bye. Take care now.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. If you like today's episode, make sure to subscribe to our channel. That's it from AI to Go. Thank you. Bye bye and auf Wiedersehen.
AI to Go podcast.